We'll go to Georgian TV in the front row.
Thank you very much. Georgian Public Broadcaster Ketevan Kardava. Mr. Secretary General, as we are waiting for NATO summit in July, we have such question. How the progress made by Georgia will be reflected? Will Georgia receive, as the minister said today, so-called positive feedback? And what Georgia should do to convince member states that we really deserve the membership of this organization? And also about NATO-Georgia Commission, what can you tell us, which will be held during summit in July? Thank you very much.
We have not decided the formats of the summit in July, but I can tell you that all allies have expressed strong support to Georgia, to Georgia's aspirations to move towards membership, and we will continue to provide practical support and political support, including with a joint training and evaluation center, with helping with reforms, and with many other tools where we provide support for Georgia. And also many allies expressed gratitude to Georgia for Georgia's contributions to different NATO missions and operations. Georgia is on top when it comes to, for instance, contributions to our mission in Afghanistan. I'm also absolutely certain that at the summit, the progress Georgia has made will be recognized, and we'll find ways to express that. Exactly in what form has not been decided, because we haven't decided the detailed program and formats of the summit.
And what else should Georgia?
Well, Georgia should continue to implement reforms and to modernize its armed forces to meet NATO standards, and to continue to strengthen the rule of law, independent judiciary, and also to fight corruption. This is good for Georgia regardless of the question of membership, but of course it also helps Georgia moving towards membership.
Okay, lady in the first row again.
I'm from Ukraine, Alexandra Gutnik, Zik Channel. Yesterday you had a meeting with the Hungarian minister. Was Ukraine discussed at that meeting, and what are the perspectives of the NATO-Ukraine Commission meeting at the summit?
Yes, I met the Hungarian foreign minister yesterday. We discussed different issues, but including also the possibility of having a NATO-Ukraine Commission meeting at the summit. It's well known that there are some differences between Hungary and Ukraine, which has made it not possible to have a meeting at ministerial level, but we still believe it. We are still urging Ukraine and Hungary to try to find a solution to the differences as quickly as possible. Hungary is a highly valued ally. Hungary contributes to NATO's collective defense, our shared security, in many different ways. And Hungary has also started to increase defense spending, and we welcome, of course, also that. Ukraine is a partner, a close partner of NATO, and Ukraine is also a victim of Russian aggression and illegal annexation of Crimea, and the efforts of Russia to destabilize eastern Ukraine. All of that makes it important for allies to also find a way to express continued solidarity with Ukraine.
Okay, we go to the first row here. Yeah.
Hi, this is Nasser Maimanigi from Salom Atandar. You just mentioned and highlighted the important role of regional players in helping Afghanistan achieve peace and stabilization. And the usual names of Pakistan, Iran, and Russia appear. What kind of role could Saudi Arabia and India play, given the fact that Taliban have asked Saudi Arabia to play an important and leading role in peace negotiations with the Taliban? How could NATO's decisions vis-à-vis Iran and Russia affect their response to Afghan cause? Thank you.
So the main message from NATO is that we are supporting an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process. So it's not for NATO to decide exactly how that process is organized and how Afghanistan works with other countries in the region and with other countries in general. We support the efforts of the National Unity Government. We welcome the unprecedented offer to invite the Taliban to the negotiating table without preconditions. It's obvious that this needs also support from countries in the region, and all countries in the region should support an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process, but it's not for NATO to decide exactly how that process is going to be organized, because it's going to be led and owned by the Afghan National Unity Government.
Okay. We've second row, Wall Street Journal.
Julian Barnes, Wall Street Journal. On Afghanistan, will stepped up military pressure by the Afghan security forces help with the peace process this summer? And are you on the right track in terms of securing forces from allies to sort of meet the force level that the alliance would like to see by the summertime?
It's obvious that if the Taliban believes that it's possible to win on the battlefield, they will be less inclined to sit down at the negotiating table and really engage in a real peace process. So therefore, it is a close link between NATO's message on security, on support for the Afghan national security forces and army, and the possibility for President Ghani to invite the Taliban to peace talks, to negotiations. And therefore we have now made it clear that we have a conditions-based presence in Afghanistan. We will continue to stay, we will continue to provide support, not in the combat role, but continue to train, enable and to fund the Afghan forces so they can respond, so they can take full security, continue to be fully in charge of security in Afghanistan. But by doing that, we are also creating the conditions for a peace process. So yes, I believe that NATO's increased efforts when it comes to training, assistance, advice for the Afghans. For instance, they are now developing their own air forces, their own special operation forces, is contributing to the possibility to have a negotiated, peaceful solution. The last question I've forgotten.
Force levels.
Well, we have as I say, come a long way, and we also had heard some new announcements at the meeting today. I will not go into detailed numbers, but as I said, we are around 15,000 to 16,000 troops, and we continue to expect some more announcements from some other allies.
Okay, gentleman in the second row with glasses.
Thank you, Wajid Alberza from Georgia. Today I would like to echo my colleague's question regarding Georgia. You mentioned, you underlined the roadmap that we have to follow, but I would like to once again ask, what do you think is the biggest obstacle left on Georgia's path towards getting the membership action plan and consequently the full membership? And also this month, it's been 10 years since Bucharest summit, since the 2008 August war in Georgia. And from purely real politics and geopolitical perspective, judging the political climate in the world now, do you think we are closer to membership action plan, to becoming a member of Alliance now, or we were back then? Thank you.
So Georgia will become a member of NATO provided it meets the necessary requirements. And Georgia has all the practical tools necessary to prepare for membership. The Membership Action Plan, MAP, is an integral part of Georgia's membership process. Therefore, before Georgia can join NATO, there must be a consensus decision by allies about MAP. At the same time, we recognize that Georgia is making progress in many different areas, including on defense reform, in the fight against terrorism, against corruption, but also when it comes to modernizing its different security institutions, and when it comes to, for instance, the rule of law, independent judiciary. So we will continue to provide support. There is NATO presence in Georgia, both in the NATO framework, but also some bilateral presence of NATO allies. So we will continue to work closely with Georgia, and allies have expressed strong support to Georgia.
Okay, NPR.
Hi, Terry Schultz, thank you. As I understand it, Secretary Pompeo is urging NATO to do yet more to fight terrorism. And I would imagine that you will probably want to have something to present at the summit when President Trump shows up. What kind of things are you looking at, given that you've already got the AWACS flight, you're participating in the counter-ISIL coalition? What kind of measures could we expect to see between now and July, if any? Thanks.
So we are working on many different areas or possible measures to step up NATO's contribution to the fight against terrorism. But let me also highlight or underline that NATO has been a key contributor to the fight against terrorism for many years. Our biggest military operation in Afghanistan is about fighting terrorism. We went in to Afghanistan as a direct response to a terrorist attack against the United States in 9/11, 2001. And the main purpose or presence in Afghanistan is to prevent Afghanistan from once again becoming a safe haven for international terrorists. So everything we do in Afghanistan is very much about fighting terrorism. And we have just decided, and we are in the process of increasing our presence there with more training and more advice. We will also discuss, of course, the future of our Afghan mission or of mission in Afghanistan at the summit. Then we are now in the process of deciding and planning scaling up training in Iraq. I met with King Abdullah in Jordan recently, and we have just agreed a package, capacity building package for Jordan. This is also very much about fighting terrorism, because to help Jordan remain an island of stability in a region with a lot of instability is extremely important also when it comes to the fight against terrorism. We are working with Tunisia on a defense capacity building package, and this includes, for instance, support both for Jordan and Tunisia for development of special operation forces, intelligence, but we're also looking into other areas like, for instance, border control and other areas which are relevant for the fight against terrorism. Then there are also other areas where we now are looking into what more we can do, working with partners. The whole idea is that the best tool, or one of the best weapons we have against terrorism, is to train local forces, to enable local governments to stabilize their own countries and to fight terrorism themselves. And therefore, the whole idea of projecting stability, stabilizing our neighborhood by training local forces is one of the most important weapons we have against terrorism.
DPA at the very back.
Ansgar Hase, DPA. Secretary General, I would like to know if Secretary Pompeo raised the issue of defense expenditures. Did he ask member states like Germany to do more? And I would also like to know if you are satisfied with the plans that were provided by member states like Germany in January.
So I will leave it to Secretary Pompeo to tell you what he said. But what I can say is that I expect all allies, and of course including Germany, to deliver on the pledge we all made back in 2014. And that was to stop the cuts in defense spending, gradual increase, and then start to move towards 2%. And the good story is that, and the good news is that European allies and Canada have started to do exactly that. The cuts have stopped. All allies have stopped cutting defense budgets since 2014, and all allies have started to increase defense spending in real terms. So after years of decline, we have really turned the corner. We now see increased investment in our defense budgets for the first time in many years, all over the alliance, Europe and Canada, and that is important. Then also more nations meet the 2% target. When we made the decision in 2014, it was only 3 countries that invested 2% of GDP on defense. This year we expect 8 nations to meet the 2% goal, and the majority of the allies have already put forward plans on how to reach the 2% goal within 2024. So this is a good start. We have turned the corner, stopped the cuts, started to increase, and more allies reach the 2% goal. But we still have a long way to go, and therefore we have to continue to stay focused on burden sharing investment in defense. And I discussed this also when I met the German government recently, and I welcome the progress Germany has made, but I also highlighted the need to do more.
Okay, a lady over there in the middle.
Yes, to Hina Kosovo Television. On open door policy, can you explain us what's the state of play with membership action plan with Bosnia and Herzegovina, and do you envisage a possibility of invitation to Macedonia in the light of intensified talks between Skopje and Athens on the name dispute?
When it comes to the name issue, I would just welcome the fact that we now have talks between Athens and Skopje to try to find a mutually acceptable solution to the name issue. And the Greek foreign minister briefed us on those efforts during the meeting. NATO's position is clear. As soon as the name issue is resolved, then we are ready to invite the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia to become member of NATO. So this very much depends on the name issue. It has been an unsolved and difficult issue for many years, but now there is a new momentum. There is a real effort from Skopje and from Athens, and I just hope that they will succeed and find a way to solve that issue. When it comes to Bosnia and Herzegovina, the issue is still what we call the Tallinn criteria or conditions, meaning that we expect Bosnia and Herzegovina to be able to register immovable defense properties. This may sound like a practical bureaucratic issue, but it reflects in a way to what extent the state is able to have full control of the armed forces, and therefore this is still an issue which is addressed by NATO allies.
Okay, and final question, lady over here, third row.
Jovana Đurišić, Daily Pobjeda. Tomorrow is 1 year anniversary of Montenegrin voting in parliament to join NATO. How would you evaluate Montenegrin progress, and do you have some suggestion for future work? Thank you.
It is a great thing to have Montenegro as a member of NATO. I was very proud when we were able to welcome Montenegro as the 29th member of the alliance. And it shows that NATO's door is open. Montenegro's accession to NATO has contributed to stability in the Western Balkans. Montenegro contributes to NATO missions and operations. Montenegro has announced now that they will increase their presence in Afghanistan in our research support mission. And Montenegro has also put forward a clear plan to meet the 2% target. So it is great to have Montenegro as a member, and it shows that we are an alliance of 29 nations which stand together and protect each other.
Thank you very much. This concludes this press conference. Thank you.
Thank you.